It'll be fun. It's better than a sermon on the I promise you. Now that your hopes are down. I want to give a shout out to the students as they got to watch at home today. So I guess that's become our tradition, the shout out to people who aren't here. So if you don't want your name shouted out, better come. I have an interesting job. And part of what I do is, I read, I actually just download the sermons and I just preach whatever I found on the internet. No, I'm kidding. It's a joke. Some of you are like, oh, that explains it. No, there was a church advertisement. No, you couldn't figure out if it was a joke or not. They had a church concept where they just wanted to, you were going to preach just the best sermons word for word from all the preachers around the country. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting job. But anyway, no, I'm just joking. Some of you saw that. We were joking about that the other day. But an interesting job in that, I read the scripture and I'm reading it through the week. And those of you who know me know I'm academic of sorts, so I'm reading all kinds of books and different things about it. But really, it's also this time where you're not meditating, not like but like just really thinking about what does this passage mean? What does this mean? And it really, it was funny this week, I think, how it came together and thinking about the passage we're preaching, and also looking at the classes and different things that a couple have been praying about. We talked about the mini Sunday school class. I think that's coming. Some other things. If you're in the Facebook group, I know not everyone's a Facebook person, but sometimes that's the fastest way to throw out a quick poll. We had one the other day. Are you an introvert, extrovert, or someone wanted to add ambivert? It's for the undecided introverts. No kidding. It's like people who feel like they're equally one or the other, and I get it. But anyway, so talking a lot about some things and thinking about. Really a lot of what it means to be a discipleship. When we talk about discipleship, we talk about following Jesus, is a lot about where your heart is. And that really, I think, applies to what we're looking at today, when we're looking at different people's reactions to what Jesus is saying and doing. So we're jumping back in. Believe it or not, this is our 25th week in Mark. I know we jumped around to the end, we came back, we took a break for the summer, but this is, believe it or not, week 25. So it's taken us 25 to get into chapter 8 of a book that's only 16 chapters long. So just be glad we're not doing Luke again, because that took years, right? Anyway, now here's the thing. Today, I'm going to read this story, and some of you are going to be like, didn't you already preach this message? Because it's going to sound pretty familiar to a story we read earlier. So, this story is actually only in Matthew and Mark. And so Jesus is, and last week we were talking about, Jesus had gone off to sort of the Gentile area. He'd gone to where the non-Jewish people were living, and sometimes he does that for sort of a break, get away from people, because the Jewish people thought Gentiles had cookies, and they tried to keep separate from them, and that's a long, long story. And so this would be like, if you think of Israel as like the Bible Belt, some of you from the South, this is Vegas. Some of you are like, that's not funny. No, but if you're from Vegas, maybe you don't think. But you think of all the things that are in Vegas. You've ever been to Vegas? I did a wedding once in Vegas. That was a funny time. That's actually where I met Justin. So, and you're like, why did you meet Justin? Yeah, no, it's a long story. So he's off in sort of what they would consider this godless kind of area. He's still up in the Gentile region, and we think there's some key things in the little wording of some things where we get that. And starting in Mark chapter 8, which is where you want to go anyway. Mark chapter 8, starting verse 1 says this: About this time, another large crowd gathered, and the people ran out of food again. Like no one plans ahead. They just run out to go see Jesus, and they're like, let's not think about bringing enough food. Like when you go backpacking or something, you plan everything around food. I brought like 3 times as much food as I needed on my last backpacking trip because I was afraid I'd run out. These people, not so much planning. Maybe it's because I read the Bible. And I'm like, look, they ran out of food. Anyway, so they run out of food. And Jesus called us and says, I feel sorry for these people. They have been here with me for 3 days, and they have nothing left to eat. If I send them home hungry, they will faint along the way, for some of them come a long distance. His disciples replied, how are we supposed to find enough food to feed them out here in the wilderness? And so Jesus is out there preaching for 3 days. Now, some of you think my sermons are long. Some of the audio issues are because we've been trying to figure out how to charge the device that's also recording and broadcasting at the same time, so apologize for all that. But usually I wrap it up in about an hour. Jesus, it's like a 3-hour one. So if I say, hey, we're wrapping it up, it's only 5 or 10 more minutes. Jesus says we're wrapping it up, it's another 8 to 12 hours. He's out there for 3 days preaching. No, I'm sure that's constant. That's just what is in my mind. Anyway, so, it says, I feel sorry for them. Now, the ESV, which is, we're reading the New Living Translation, and there's also the ESV, the NIV, are two translations I read a lot that I like. It says, I have compassion on this crowd. Or I have compassion for these people. And this is interesting. It's really the first time we hear Jesus say he has compassion, but generally we see that Jesus has compassion on people, and it's sort of the word here used. We think of emotions, compassion. We think of the heart, right? Valentine's Day. We think the heart. The more their concept of where the emotions and feelings are from the guts. So this word actually is kind of I feel it in my gut for these people, But that makes it much less pretty Valentine's Day, like a big pile of guts. Also wouldn't recommend a real heart, long story. But no, I'm kidding. He really, there's a sense of, he really feels for these people. And so Jesus has this compassion on these people. And, the disciples, how are we supposed to find enough food to feed them out here in the wilderness? And, you picture, you like those survival shows on TV? I've always wanted, I wanted to be on the original Survivor when I saw it. I was like, this is incredible. And then I found out it was all about backstabbing and, and I was like, no, I thought we were actually going to do survival training. Some of you in the military, I'm thinking this would be great. Who can live out in the woods with nothing but a knife the longest? I've been planning that and training for that my whole life. Send me out in the woods with a knife, piece of flint. We have, at our house, we have primitive skills day. Sunday afternoon, everybody does something fun, right? My kids, I make them start flint and steel fires. Just in case there's a zombie apocalypse, I will be ready. So, but if we're out in the wilderness surviving, there's no Taco Bell. So this sermon brought to you by Taco Bell. And so this is it seems not unreasonable at first, but does this sound familiar? Does it? Because remember, just a little further back, if you're in Mark, kind of stand backwards while I'm reading here. If you're in a phone, you can kind of slide it. You want to swipe on the screens. Do you ever at a laptop, because you're so used to touching your phone and moving things, you touch the screen? Okay, just me. Anyway, so it's not an unreasonable question, except this has kind of happened before, and you kind of wonder, why don't the disciples respond with a little more confidence, right? Jesus, we don't have food again, but hey, you remember the fishes and the loaves last time when you fed 5,000? We got 4,000 here. So we got less, so we didn't have to have as much food, we had a bunch extra. It's kind of funny because I think, the disciples just kind of forget. It's like you tell your kids something. I remember one time our kids were like, we never go out to eat. I'm like, we ate out for lunch. What do you mean we never do that? Or, we never go to the beach. We went last weekend. So it's kind of like that. It's like your kids, they forget things. The disciples seem to forget things. And truth is, how quickly we do forget, right? Think about it for a minute. Has God ever showed up for you in a situation where you really needed Him? Hopefully your answer is yes. Provided for you, really come through for you. But then we still struggle to trust the next time, don't we? It's like we completely forget what He's done before. And so, so there's times where, maybe you've had no idea how you're going to pay your bills, and suddenly you miraculously end up with money and you pay your bills, and you're like, that's awesome, praise God. But then next time you're like, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. I don't know, maybe the thing you did last time. Right. You're nervous or afraid about a conversation you have to have with someone at work or personally with family, and God really shows up and He kind of guides that, gives you the words to say, and then the next time you're like, oh no, God, I have to have this conversation. Oh, what are you going to do? Well, please help me. Well, I did last time. Why won't I this time? And so it's easy sometimes. I think we get on the disciples because they forget things, but we really do too. And so they're thinking, you kind of wonder what they're thinking. If we only had a God who could do supernatural stuff, like heal people, raise the dead, really the right question for the disciples to be asking is what? What do you want us to do? Because we know you're going to come through on this. And so Jesus asked, how much bread do you have? 7 loaves, they were alive. Maybe I'm the only one who goes here, but I think 7 loaves and they're out in the wilderness. Have you ever gone hiking with a loaf of bread? Not a good idea. You've got tortillas when you're done. They may have started off like fluffy, and so how like I can picture how crusty and old looking this is by now after 3 days out in the wilderness, and it's kind of like pizza. Pizza is good. Is hot pizza better or cold pizza? Hot. Cold? Who says cold? I'm going to say hot, because when you order it, you never could you just cook it, let it cool off for an hour or two, and then send it over? But anyway, a lot of us, we like cold pizza. I like hot pizza, that's number one, but the next day, it's great to find pizza, and it's great to find pizza in the fridge that, you forgot about a couple days ago, that was, back. But you generally are not eating the pizza you found under the couch 3 days later, right? This is kind of what I'm picturing, this is old moldy bread, and so they're like, here we got these 7 loaves, and sometimes faith is just being faithful with what you have, and so they don't end up with much. You can see they end up with a little fish too. And it's kind of like they're sitting there again with a Lunchable in front of all these people. And it says, so Jesus told all the people to sit down on the ground. The Lunchables are good unless you're in front of 4,000 people and they're hungry, and you're like, you're going to take my Lunchable. It's like 5th grade all over. And so Jesus told all the people to sit down on the ground. Then he took the 7 loaves, thanked God for them, and broke them into pieces. And he gave them to his disciples who distributed the bread to the crowd. A few small fish were found too. So the disciples blessed these and told them to distribute. Now, I always think a few small fish were found too. Like, why do we add that later? Like, as they're getting the bread together, they find the fish. I mean, I don't like to eat seafood when you can't see the ocean. Where are these fish coming from? I'm just thinking, I hope they're preserved. I don't eat lobster outside of Maine. Can I get an amen? Some of you don't get it. I lived in a town that had like a triple lobster dinner for like $13. Oh. I know. They serve lobster in the McDonald's in Maine. It's like a different world up there. A little cold in the winter, but great lobster the rest of the time. And so he blesses them, which I always think is funny because I always like to tease people to go, do you have to pray for your meals? Because that's the big Christian dilemma, right? It's always like, you go out with somebody and you start eating and then you realize they're going to pray and you're like, oh, I didn't pray. Now I look terrible because they prayed. And it's a dilemma, because then you go out with a Christian friend, it's like, when the hors d'oeuvres come, do you pray for the hors d'oeuvres? Or do you pray for the main course? Like you're at Olive Garden, they bring out the bread, the breadsticks. You pray before the breadsticks. You pray after the breadsticks. And what if it's just a salad? Side salad, main salad? Is it what you think about? And you're never sure because you're not sure if you're with a Christian who likes to pray before the meal, or you're with a Christian who likes to judge you if you forgot to pray before the meal. I pray over my wallet before I go to a restaurant. I pray over the groceries when they come home. No. And it's a dilemma. Because you go out for coffee, do you pray before coffee? No. What if it's a latte? What if you order a scone? You have to do the scone. That's where we draw the line. Okay, Deepwater official policy is coffee, don't have to pray for. Cappuccino, don't have to pray for. Scone is where we draw the line. You have to pray together for the scone, or do you pray individually? Like if you have a scone and I don't have a scone, do we all pray? Do we hold hands? No, I'm laughing because it's really, I'm not against praying for your meal. There's just dilemmas when you're out with Christians. Because you don't want to be the one that doesn't know what we're supposed to do. Anyway, so Jesus prays for his food, and there's no biblical mandate you have to pray for your food, but Jesus prays for this, so we pray for our food. I think it's kind of where we get it. Anyway, so it says this verse 8, because this has gotten off on a weird comment. They ate as much as they wanted. Afterwards, picked up 7 large baskets of leftover food. Now remember, last time they had what? 12, because there's 12 disciples, and this time they had 7. And there's all kinds of theories about why 12 and 7 and everything. We really can't prove or disprove some of them. But anyway, so they go into that. They ate as much as they wanted. Now, I like that because I'm an American, because we don't, you ever go to an all-you-can-eat buffet? I rarely eat as much as I can eat. I usually eat as much as I want, because what I can eat is should not be done. I went to an all-you-can-eat sushi buffet one time. You should not eat all the sushi you can eat. I'm just saying. there was sickness that followed. This is not dieting, this is not low-fat ice cream, this is like, you go to another country, I love other countries, I get to travel sometimes, but in America, if we fill up whatever plate we have, you know what I mean? Because if there's still plate, you still put food on it, right? You go to other countries, you're like, there's still plate. We need to fill this out. Not making fun, just it's a different experience. Sometimes I go to another country and like everyone's eating, and like if I eat what I want to eat American style, everyone else doesn't get to eat. So there's like this awkwardness, you're just hungry all the time. The next week is like a good banana vendor. Anyway, so this is like Thanksgiving, Christmas, everybody eats. So they go from scarcity, nothing, 7 loaves, a couple fish they found, to eating as much as they want. And it's really this kind of crazy miracle. It says there were about 4,000 men in the crowd that day. Now, I'm sorry, ladies, it's totally sexist the way they count. They just count that way. So, maybe there was 4,001 people because there was like one woman there, one kid. Anyway, there were about 4,000 men in the crowd that day. Jesus sent them home. But Jesus cared and loved women, so not love. So that's a whole other side sermon that I think I preached over there, but we can put the whole that one maybe next summer. That's immediately after this, got into a boat and studied and crossed over to the region of Delaware, which that's a whole other thing. And so, he takes 7 loaves and he ends up with 7 baskets. They go from this scarcity, they don't have anything, to, totally abundance. And it really kind of, we have to ask the question, can we trust God when there is no way? There's no way to feed that many people with that little food. But he did it before. People forget. But he does it again. And we're learning there's, God will take your little and multiply it and do much. And, this is a familiar sounding passage because the feeding of the 4,000, which is what we're just reading, is only in Matthew and Mark, and it's not in Luke and John. Now, Synoptic Gospels, some of you saw the cartoon the other day, it was like, the teachers like Matthew, Mark, and Luke. I'm going to see you guys after class. Your book reports are very similar. Matthew, Mark, and Luke they call them the Synoptic Gospels because they're they share a lot of the same stories and details and things, and there's like overlap. And I have this cool Bible that shows where they overlap in every place and everything. And there's all the people try to figure out all kinds of cool stuff. But John is like if you remember Sesame Street, and they had always one of these kids is doing their own thing. You had to guess which in the 4. There's like 4 blocks. Anybody remember that? Okay, like 3 people. The rest of you, oh my God, 4. I do hear 5. Anyway, we hear 5. Okay, so John is one of those kids that's doing his own thing. But so then people look at this passage. I just want to kind of tell you this because sometimes people come at you and they're like, oh, well, the Bible's not true, this, that. And people look at this and they go, look, they messed up. They messed up the ending. They included the story twice, which really doesn't make sense because they're different contexts, right? And Jesus can do things in multiple times. It's kind of like Sermon on the Mount. I'm sure Jesus said some of the things in the Sermon on the Mount after the Sermon on the Mount. Not like just, he did the Sermon on the Mount, and I'm never going to talk about any of that stuff again. For the next 3 years of ministry, you should have been there for Sermon on the Mount. You got to listen to the audio, you got to download that podcast, because, that's all he said. There's differences, like the words used for some things, it's in technical stuff, basket names are different, it's so many. And Mark is interesting because Mark is the shortest of the Gospels. But he includes this story. If Mark's editing out stuff to go, he kind of compacts everything. He tells the story. He's that friend of yours, like you go somewhere and you have like the one friend who's like telling you the story where they went, and you're like, oh my gosh, get to the point. That's Luke. That's Matthew. There's these, Mark is that friend who you're like, hey, what'd you do? We're not friends with you today. Anything else? Oh yeah, we saw people, and your friend Matthew's like, oh yeah, we went out for ice cream, it was a beautiful day. There are all these people that, Mark is telling things compact, so when you go, anyway, that is a side sermon to just, no, I'm not writing that one down. That is a side sermon to go. It's interesting how many people sometimes want to tear apart the Bible and just. You don't understand. And the reason that Jesus includes this story again, that Jesus does this thing again, it kind of goes back to last week's sermon. Now, some of you are like, okay, I missed last week. Yes, it was a great sermon. No. Okay. Last week we talked about there's this Gentile woman comes to Jesus, and Jesus, he's kind of hiding out, but people are finding him anyway. He's trying to get some rest, and she's like, Jesus kind of tests her, and I've got to give you the short version of that sermon, or we're going to run out of battery power again. Is that he tests her, kind of going, hey, I've come for the Jews, and not for the dogs, and she's like, well, hey, kind of like I got to give it to the children, not the dogs at the table, and she's like, well, even the dogs eat crumbs and scraps, and so there's this little dialogue that Jesus sort of tests her on, and then again. Listen to the sermon if you want. Jesus is like, this whole section is kind of showing where the Gentiles are included. It's not just for the Jewish people. And then I think one of the reasons they include this right after that is to show who benefits, because we had abundance before. We had the feeding of the 5,000. Now we have the Gentiles, and there's 4,000 people there. And it just shows there's abundance. Jesus is including everyone. Jesus came for all. He didn't come for just this group or just that group, which sometimes religious people tend to think. But there's abundance. There's leftovers. There's extra. And there's plenty. The Gentiles are in. They're invited to participate at the table just as the Jewish people are. The kingdom is for Gentiles also, which is great news for most of us, because if you're not of Jewish background, you're a Gentile. You don't know it. But this is like one of those things the early church really struggled with, because Jesus, he was Jewish. The people of God, he came from them, but ultimately he's for everyone. And then I think this bread is a sign. It's sometimes hard to understand. And the disciples often miss the symbolicness of what Jesus is doing, right? Like, he's not just healing people because he wants a good medical practice. If so, he would have set up shop, hospital to Jesus, 30 coins to get in, he could have had quite a business going. But, Jesus is doing things which reveal his compassion. Jesus has this heartfelt compassion. The miracles reveal who he is. And so if you look at this miracle and you see people just eating lunch, you miss out. Because it's more than just people eating lunch. It reveals his compassion. It shows that God's providing for all. He's providing for Jew and Gentile. He's providing in abundance. And ultimately, God will provide for your needs. When you're hurting, truth is, you may wonder, does God even care? Does God care about things? But see, God knows God cares. And just to know you're hungry moves God's heart. Jesus' heart is for these people because they're hungry. He's like, oh, they don't have enough food. And he feels for them. He acts. He does something. If you're hurting, God cares. Do you need healing? God cares. Jew or Gentile, he feels compassion. That's the heart of God. And whatever you're going through, God cares. And so we turn away from that. This dramatic, this sign, it shows who Jesus is. It reveals the heart of God for people. And again, Jesus takes off, goes to another region because gathering too much of a crowd. And he says, when the Pharisees heard that Jesus had arrived, they came and started to argue with him. Which I think is hilarious, Like, Jesus is doing all this cool stuff. Religious people, they get upset. Testing him, they demanded that he show them a miraculous sign from heaven to prove his authority. Does anyone else find that odd? Like, I don't know. I just fed 4,000 people with little loaves of bread, not even big, giant, huge loaves, not like a giant pizza. Every single one was I want some pizza, Justin is with me. So, he says, when he heard this, he sighed deeply in his spirit and said, why do these people keep demanding a miraculous sign? I tell you the truth, I will not give this generation any such signs. He gets back in the boat and he leaves and we cross to the other side of the lake. The truth is, some people are just blind to the truth, right? Jesus was doing some things that they should have understood. Hey, maybe this guy's from God. He's praying and 7 loaves, and you end up with 7 baskets of stuff. And the truth is, some people won't believe no matter what. You could show them every evidence, every incontrovertible I don't know what you know, every truth, you can show them all kinds of things, but they just refuse. They're like, show me more. You know, well, if God really existed, would grow a third arm. Well, even if God grew a third arm for you, one, that'd be weird. But two, you know, you wouldn't believe, because you're like, oh, well, sometimes people just naturally grow third arms. It's a genetic thing, it's something in my, you know, because we always explain it away. You know, and if you remember Jesus earlier in Mark, I know again, we're 25 weeks in, we took the summer off, but you know, earlier in Mark, Jesus is doing miracles, he's driving out demons, which is generally a sign that, you know, you got some power going on, right? I mean, most of us are not, you know, anyway. But, you know, what do the religious people do, though? What do they say? Remember? Anybody remember? My gosh, I'm a terrible pastor. He said, hey, you're doing it by Beelzebub. You're doing it by the principle. It's by Satan's power that you're driving out demons. So even when Jesus does the stuff that should show who he is, people are like, nah, you're doing it by Satan. You know, it's interesting. So, you know, I was like, what is a sign? So I was reading some stuff, you know, and trying to figure out, you know, what would actually be a sign to people who can't seem to see a sign. Like, show me a sign. There's a stop sign right there. Show me a sign. There's a yield sign. Show me a sign. That's not the kind of sign I'm talking. But it probably would have been something along the lines of, show me a sign, get rid of the Romans. You know, because that's the Jewish people hated being underneath the Roman rule, so maybe their sign was, you know, do something, you know, prophesy, get rid of these Roman people. I want that kind of sign. But that's not the kingdom Jesus brings. Jesus brings this kingdom of love and service and sacrifice and pick up your cross and follow me. You know, the sign was that Jesus brought was they abundantly supplied for all those people. You know, the sign Jesus brought was he demonstrated God's power and his compassion on healing people. But that's not what they were looking for. The Pharisees couldn't see or wouldn't see it for what it was. We continue in verse 14, and so back in the boat, and you know, you kind of picture, when you picture a boat, I don't know if people picture like a big ship or something. Very sure, like if you Google Jesus boat, it's not really his boat, but they found a boat that would have been approximately the size, and they found it's about from his time. So back in my mind, I'm like, was Jesus in it? So now the boat was preserved? I don't know. Anyway, they sunk this boat and they got stuck in the mud and they found it. I like archaeology and stuff like that. And so, you know, Google Jesus boat, not right now. Some of you, I know you're Googling it right now. You're like, oh, I was going to Google it. You're Googling it. I see you. It's true. That's okay. I don't care. Maybe you can listen again anyway, Google. But you know, it'd be in this like kind of like a giant rowboatish thing. Some of you were like, I was about to Google that too, but now I'm not because Jeff's talking about me. But you know, they're kind of piled in this boat. So picture this, and as they're going, you know, it says this: but the disciples had forgotten to bring any food. Now that's, I know. Like some of you are like, I would never forget lunch. Like I was like, I'm going out for the day. I'm going to the mall. I better bring a snack. You know, there's no Wawa you can stop at. They don't on the Wawa, they go on the water. They couldn't stop and get a pretzel or anything, you know. And so, you know, they're like, they forgot to bring any food. And I mean, I get this. I love coffee. You know I love coffee. You know, even some of our, we have signs, you know, you have to check them out. There's like coffee, did you notice the coffee cup on that one? Yeah. but you know, I often forget I make coffee in the morning and then make it and leave it right on the, anyone else do that? You get like, you're driving to work and you're like, and so, yeah, it's a horrible thing. Because then you're in the dilemma. You're like, do you wait for the meeting or go get my coffee? And people like you better when you have the coffee, so you make the choice, you know. But, you know, so they only have one loaf of bread with them on the boat. As they're crossing the lake, Jesus warned them, watch out, beware the yeast of the Pharisees and of Herod. You know, and you kind of picture, it's just like, watch out. You're kind of concerned. Like, when your kids run into traffic, you're like, watch out. You know, because Jesus is just like, he's frustrated with this incident with the Pharisees. Because Jesus came for Pharisees too. But, you know, he's frustrated they won't believe. And, you know, at this, you know, I like this. At this, they began to argue with each other because they hadn't brought any bread. They only had one loaf. Now, Jesus fed 4,000 people with 7 loaves. Right afterwards, they've got one, and they're worried that it's going to be running enough bread. Well, you know, Jesus prayed, and you fed 4,000 with 7. We just got one, and a boat full of people would be good. And I picture this. those of us who are godly never have this happen, but the rest of you, you may sometimes be in your car and like there's bickering and fighting going behind you as parents. Like, you know what I mean? You've heard people talk about this. It never happens to you, right? But there's the bickering and fighting that go on with your kids. And so I picture Jesus picture him, I don't know why, he's in the front of the boat in my mind, driving the minivan, and, or the SUV, whatever you drive, on the Civic. And then he turns and it's like, he's like, kids are arguing, and Jesus he knew what they were saying because they're in a boat. And he says, why are you arguing about having no bread? Don't you know or understand even yet? Are your hearts too hard to take it in? You have eyes, can't you see? You have ears, can't you hear? That's a pretty harsh thing. Jesus saying, hey, you been listening? Don't you remember anything at all? When I fed the 5,000 with 5 loaves of bread, how many baskets of leftover did you pick up afterward? 12, they said. When I fed the 4,000 with 7 loaves, how many basketfuls of leftover did you pick up? 7, they said. But don't you understand yet? I mean, it does seem crazy, right? You literally just fed a bunch of people. You fed thousands of people in a fit. Now, yeast is kind of funny because, again, those of you know me, I originally started off to be a chemist, and so yeast is a unicellular fungus that causes fermentation. The end products are carbon dioxide gas and ethyl alcohol. Now, some of you are like, what? Basically, yeast are these little things, if you don't know, they come in a little packet, like at Food Lion or Walmart, wherever you get your yeast. I don't know, probably not gone out and buying a lot of yeast. If you are, maybe you're related to yeast, you go to Fibers, I don't know. But, you throw it in there, generally the alcohol evaporates out when you make bread. CO2 is what makes the bread light and fluffy. I love me a tortilla, but man, nice, fluffy, fresh, baked loaf of bread. And some of you are hungry right now. And you would think if we planned ahead, we'd have bread or something up afterwards, but we didn't. And we don't. Dave was like, we are not going to get any, so we can just leave a little early. And the way it works is basically, if you're making bread, I read this article recently, before, ironically, years ago, but I was reading one on, the San Francisco sourdough bread and how it tastes different and all this. And it's because of the sort of, what you do is you rip off a chunk of bread, and then that gets, you make the bread the next time with that. And you just keep taking a rotten chunk of bread and throwing it in there. And that's how the yeast kind of keeps, populating things. And so, different areas can even have different strains of yeast. And I found that really fascinating, but some of you don't think it is at all. But that's why it tastes different. They wouldn't generally just go to the store and get a packet because they didn't have a store with packets. And so that's what yeast is. So, is that what we're supposed to fear? Unicellular fungus that causes fermentation? Some of you are like, I'm a little fearful now. I don't even know how to eat bread. I don't know, something's eating my bread. Don't worry, you cooked it. They all die off. But the yeast is, what Jesus is using is that it's really the invisible nature of the spiritual world. And it can be used sometimes in a positive way, because faith can be like this little thing, but it can spread rapidly like yeast, or unbelief can do the same thing. It spreads. And Proverbs 4:23 says this. It says, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. I like how, I think there's some complementary translations. The NIV says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. ESV says, keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flows the springs of life. Your actions, what you do, ultimately spring from where your heart is. And that's, some of what Jesus was getting to in the Sermon on the Mount. We've talked about that. It's this famous sermon Jesus did when he was on the mountain. So they call it the Sermon on the Mount. It's in Matthew. And so Jesus is saying things like, hey, you've heard it say don't kill somebody. But I say if you're mad at them, it's kind of the same. I'm paraphrasing. And Jesus is like, hey, it's great. Don't commit adultery. You've heard that said. But I'm saying don't lust in your heart. And so God's laws and purposes, it's supposed to deal with external stuff. But ultimately what God wants to deal with is our heart. Because it's our heart that needs to be changed if we want our actions to change. Because if we really want to do something, generally we'll end up finding an excuse to do it. But if we allow God to change our heart, it'll change our behavior. One thing it's one thing to say that we follow Jesus. It's another sometimes to actually live that out. It's easy, I think, to let other viewpoints change our viewpoint and get our focus off of Christ. And that's what, the yeast of the Pharisees, they were religious, right? But sometimes they focus so much on these external rules that ultimately they don't follow Jesus because he doesn't fit their box, right? So you can be religious, but missing the point. That's kind of funny. He throws in Herod, like out of nowhere, you're like, but see, Herod, he was overtly evil, but he often used his religion, he claimed Judaism for political influence. And it's easy to kind of grab this. And what's ironic is both the Pharisees and Herod, the enemies, want something similar. They want vindication of their own group, elimination of enemies. They want the same things. And if we're not careful, viewpoints and things that are not biblical, viewpoints that are not Jesus-centered, get our hearts off of Jesus, and then we act in different ways. And if we're not careful, the world around us can change us instead of faith in Jesus. Now, most of us breathe. Anyone not breathing? We need to call paramedics. You stop breathing just so you can raise your hand. Most of us aren't, most of us when you breathe, everybody breathe in. And exhale. Are you aware that there's something called air? Well, you kind of are because you just breathe it in and breathe it out. But most of us probably don't think much of it, unless you're like running from a bear and you can't breathe anymore, or if someone puts you underneath the water and you try to breathe, then you're suddenly acutely aware of the fact that there's no air. You begin to breathe air, you don't think anything of it, right? And that's a lot of the things in our culture are like air. We don't really think about what we're breathing in. We don't think about the stuff we take in. Now, again, I love movies. We were talking movie lines earlier, obscure movie lines that I can't figure out where they came from. But I love those things. But we have to watch. Are we being shaped by that? I like music, but are we being shaped by that? And we have to constantly go. Are we being shaped by our culture, our family, our friends, which are sometimes good influences, sometimes bad, or are we being shaped by Jesus? And that's primarily why we talk about, reading the Bible, because it's like, it changes us because it confronts the way we feel and how it's different than the way God feels. Now, most of you know I have a sweaty teenager who plays football, and he's in the back working the camera right now. And so, I'll be honest, I love the boy. I didn't ask if I could share this story on yet, but I am. When he comes home from football, it reminds me of a line in the King James when it talks about Lazarus being dead in the grave. It says, he stinketh. My boy stinketh. Because in a glorious way, for those of you who love sports, because there's, football, you're wearing a layer of pads, it's 100 degrees, and you stink when you're done. You may not realize you stink, but the rest of us know. And when he comes into the car, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's terrible. I should have brought a towel, a seat cover or something, And then it's like great because he brings friends home sometimes we need a ride because we're always like the people who give anybody a ride. It's like, and it really stinketh in there. So anyway, the last couple of weeks in the extreme heat and the stinkiness of Josh, my car started to get a little funky. And every time Ellen would get in the car, she'd be like, your car stinks. I was like, oh, she's just being particular or something. And then the other day, Josh got it, he's like, man, your car really does stink. Problem is, I've gone nose blind. Right? Because if you're in something that stinks enough, you stop smelling it. And so I had to go to a missions meeting to meet this missionary who you guys are going to meet in December. And I ended up having to spend the morning. I came here, I stopped at the store, and I got like cleaning products for the car because I had to drive someone to a meeting that was an hour away. And I was like, I cannot do this to them. And so like I cleaned, I deodorized, I used spray stuff and the clip things and the vents and everything. Well, anyway, and I was like, Denise, can you come by and smell my car? I'm not that guy, but you don't want to subject somebody to the stench of, your boy. But that's here's the danger is, we can go nose blind to the things of God because we're around it so much still. We can go nose blind to our culture and let it affect us. We can go nose blind to things because you can kind of become immune to it because you're around it. The disciples were around Jesus a lot, but they were still missing things. And you can be someone who is around the things of God so much that you miss out on the big picture. The Pharisees had the Word of God. They had the Hebrew Bible. The scriptures speak of Jesus. They speak of this Messiah to come, but they missed it. And here's the thing. When we read the Gospels, anybody who's like been around the church long enough, when you read the Gospels, and you read about Pharisees, what do? Those Pharisees, right? You're like, because you never like read a passage, you're like, man, I am just like that Pharisee, right? Because we put ourselves on the good side, Thomas is doubting, when Jesus comes back, he's like, I don't know. We're like, I can't believe Thomas doubts. But, really, we're probably like Thomas at points. And I think a lot of times we're like the Pharisees at points because it's easy for people of faith to get weirdly religious and miss out on what Jesus is doing. And so, the thing is, we have to guard our hearts. Proverbs 4:23. Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. And ultimately, all these things influence us. I'm not saying don't live in our culture, but we need to be careful of the things that shape and guide our heart. Let the Bible be your guide to God and Jesus, not our culture. And that's, we're looking at some of the classes we're teaching this fall are about that in particular. Letting that shape our life. We're going to have a Sunday morning class. We've got the men's group. We've got Wednesday night class. We've got classes for teens. We've got all kinds of things. Because ultimately, you need to allow the Holy Spirit and the Bible to shape us and change us. Guard your heart. Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. As the worship team comes back to play, I want to thank you. If you're here for the first time,